A journey from words to wisdom. Let me take you back to a time in my life when I was constantly searching for clarity, for direction, for some kind of control over what felt like an uncontrollable life. I was reading all the books, listening to the experts, attending workshops, writing affirmations in journals. I had notebooks full of highlighted quotes and bullet points on how to change my mindset, attract abundance, heal my body, live my best life. And yet I was stuck. I wasn't unhappy, not exactly, but I was tired. Tired of chasing answers, tired of not seeing results. It felt like I was doing everything right, saying all the right things, thinking all the positive thoughts, but nothing was really changing. That's when I met Marcus. He wasn't a guru or a coach or some wildly successful entrepreneur. He didn't wear a suit or speak in sound bites. He was just this quietly wise man who had a way of saying things that stayed with you, whether you agreed with them in the moment or not. He wasn't trying to convince anyone of anything. He wasn't flashy or loud, but the moment he spoke, you knew there was something different about him. I remember the first real conversation we had. I was complaining about how hard I was working on myself, on my mindset, my health, my career, and how frustrating it was to not see faster results. I expected advice, maybe some tips on visualization or a new meditation app. But instead, Marcus looked at me and said very calmly, "Words don't teach. Life experience does." I just stared at him. "Wait, what?" I asked. "But what about all the books, all the talks, the lessons, the advice? None of it teaches." He smiled. "Not really. Words can point you toward understanding, but they don't deliver it. Only when you live something, when you experience it for yourself, does it become real. That's when you know something, not just think it." At first, I didn't want to accept that. I loved words. I built my whole self-improvement journey around them. But the more I thought about it, the more I saw the truth in what Marcus was saying. I had heard countless teachings about how our thoughts create our reality, how our energy shapes our experience. But those teachings hadn't clicked until life forced me to face certain patterns head on. It wasn't until I felt the pain of resisting my reality, and later, the lightness of accepting it, that I understood what those teachings really meant. Marcus explained it further. When words align with your lived experience, when you've seen the truth of them in action, that's when they become wisdom. Until then, they're just concepts. Beautiful ones maybe, but still just concepts. And then he said something I've never forgotten. "You're not here to memorize truths. You're here to live them." That line landed like a thunderclap in my chest, because suddenly I realized I'd been trying to think my way into a better life without actually living in a way that matched those thoughts. I was saying the words, but I wasn't feeling the truth of them. I was repeating affirmations while still telling myself stories of limitation. And stories, Marcus told me, are everything. "You live the story you tell," he said. "Tell a story of struggle, and life will give you more struggle. Tell a story of healing, and life will begin to respond to that too." Now, at the time, I was dealing with chronic fatigue. I'd seen doctors, changed my diet, meditated more, rested more, tried supplements. And I kept telling the story of how hard it was to fix my body, how unfair it was to be doing all the right things and still feel off. Marcus gently suggested that I try something different. Not another supplement, not another routine, just a different story. "Start small," he said. "Don't lie to yourself. Don't pretend everything's perfect. Just shift the focus. Instead of repeating what's wrong, start noticing what's less wrong, what's getting better, and then keep telling that story." So I tried it. At first it felt strange. I'd wake up and say, "I'm starting to feel a bit more energized," even if I wasn't. I'd say, "My body is learning how to restore itself." I didn't fully believe it at first. But Marcus told me belief would come with consistency, and he was right. Over time, my story shifted from one of frustration to one of curiosity. I became more interested in how good I could feel, I began noticing moments, small ones, where I felt better than usual, a little clearer, a little stronger. And here's where the magic started. Life met me there. When I started focusing on those better feeling stories, I didn't just feel emotionally better, I actually began to heal. My body responded. My energy lifted, not overnight but steadily. And Marcus explained why. He said, there's power in passion. When you focus long enough and positively enough that you feel passion rise up in you, you activate the creative force of the universe. The same force that creates worlds begins flowing through you. He wasn't being metaphorical. He truly believed, and I came to believe, that we are co-creators in this life. That our thoughts, especially when infused with strong feeling, shape our reality in ways far deeper than we usually acknowledge. But most people, Marcus said, aren't using their creative power deliberately. They're recycling the same lukewarm thoughts over and over. Thoughts like, nothing ever changes, or people don't understand me, or this is just how life is. These thoughts aren't dramatic. They're not emotional. They're familiar. And because they're so familiar, they fly under the radar and continue to create the very conditions we say we want to escape. Marcus called these maintenance thoughts. They don't build new futures. They just hold old realities in place. If you want to change your life, he told me, you have to stop being loyal to the story of how it's been. Start being loyal to the story of how you want it to be. And that takes courage. It takes imagination. It takes practice. But it works. Today I share this with you not as an idea or philosophy, but as something I've lived. I'm healthier now than I've ever been, not just physically, but emotionally, mentally, spiritually. And not because I fixed myself, but because I changed the story. I stopped saying, I'm trying to get better, and started saying, I'm learning how to thrive. I stopped focusing on how far I had to go, and started celebrating how far I'd come. And I invite you to do the same. You don't have to believe it all today. You don't have to change everything overnight. Just start small. Start noticing where your story could be softer, kinder, more hopeful. Tell a better feeling story, not because it's wishful thinking, but because it opens the door to new experience. Because as Marcus once told me, you'll never live beyond the story you're willing to tell. So tell a story that lifts you. Tell a story that frees you. Tell a story that calls you forward. And then just watch what happens.